Here is part 1 explained in approximately 1,000 words. Fast-paced, simple English, clean, emotional, and safe for YouTube monetization. Only story, no extra notes. Taught part 1, the late night call 1,000-word expansion. Emily Parker arrived at the Mapleview Hotel long after the city of Denver had gone quiet. Her flight had been delayed twice. Her suitcase handle had snapped. The cold November wind had followed her from the airport parking lot to the hotel lobby. She was exhausted, hungry, and ready to fall into bed without even turning on the lights. Business trips were normal for her, but this one felt heavier. Too many meetings, too many people, and too little sleep. Her room was warm at first, but the heat faded quickly. After a few minutes, she could see her own breath in the air. The heater rattled, coughed, and went silent. She rubbed her hands together, trying to stay warm. It was close to midnight, and the hallway outside was quiet enough to feel lonely. Emily stared at the thermostat again, hoping it would magically fix itself. But the numbers kept falling. She sighed, pulled the hotel phone closer, and dialed the front desk. A calm voice answered, steady and polite. "Front desk, this is Ryan. How may I help you tonight?" Emily wasn't expecting the voice to sound warm. Most hotel calls felt rushed or tired, but this one carried patience, like she wasn't just another guest. She explained the problem, apologizing twice, even though she didn't need to. Ryan listened without interrupting. "That sounds uncomfortable," he said. "I'll send someone right away." "Don't worry, we'll take care of it." For a moment, Emily just held the phone after the call ended. It was strange how a stranger's voice could make a cold room feel a little less empty. She changed into sweatpants, sat on the edge of the bed, and waited. 10 minutes passed. Then a knock came. Emily opened the door, expecting one person, but two men stood there. The first was Ryan, the front desk, clerk tall, brown hair, soft eyes, wearing a hotel name tag and a dark blue sweater. The second was Daniel, the maintenance worker, wearing a thick work jacket with tiny flakes of snow melting on the shoulder. They both looked surprised to see each other. "I came to check the heater," Daniel said, lifting a small toolbox, "and I came to make sure everything was okay," Ryan added. Slightly awkward but friendly. Emily stepped back and let them in. The room wasn't large, so the three of them shared the same quiet space. Daniel walked directly to the heater, opening the panel and shining a small flashlight inside. Ryan remained near the small desk, just close enough to help if needed. Emily didn't know why, but she felt like something unusual had entered her night. She had been alone all week, airports, taxis, conferences, but now two strangers stood in her room, both trying to make her night better in their own way. Daniel worked quickly, his hands steady and practiced. He didn't talk much, only asking a few short questions. Ryan, on the other hand, tried to make the cold room feel warmer with conversation. He asked her how long she was staying, if she was in town for business, if she needed an extra blanket. His voice carried a softness that made her shoulders relax. Emily learned small things about him. He had moved to Denver recently. He worked night shifts while finishing online college classes. And he liked helping guests because he believed small kindness mattered. He didn't say it to impress her. It simply sounded like the truth. Daniel finished repairing the heater and closed the panel. Warm air started flowing again, pushing away the cold. He stood up, slightly shy, and gave Emily a small smile. "It should work fine now," he said. "If it stops again, call and I'll return." Emily thanked him, and he nodded once before heading to the door. But something in his expression felt heavy, like he had carried a long day with him. Emily didn't know his story, but she sensed he wasn't just tired, he was lonely in a way she recognized. Ryan stayed a moment longer, making sure she was comfortable. He asked if she needed water, extra towels, or snacks from the lobby. Emily almost said no, but something about his gentle tone made her pause. She didn't want him to leave so fast. "You don't have to rush back," she said. "You look like you've been working nonstop." He laughed quietly. "Night shift does that to a person." Ryan told her the lobby was always silent at this hour. And sometimes the hardest part of the job was pretending it didn't feel lonely. Emily nodded, thinking about how her own life felt full on the outside: career, travel, meetings, but empty on the inside. She didn't say it aloud, but she knew the loneliness he described. After a few minutes, Brian finally stepped toward the door. "If you need anything at all's just call." Emily smiled politely. The door closed. The room grew quiet again. The heater hummed, pushing warm air through the vents. But warmth didn't fill the room the way she expected. Instead, the silence felt louder, deeper. She sat on the bed and stared at the ceiling. Maybe it was the long day. Maybe it was the way Ryan's voice felt familiar. Maybe it was the sadness in Daniel's eyes. She wasn't sure, but something inside her felt unsettled. Like a part of her wanted to pull two strangers back into her night just to feel less alone. She tried to sleep. She pulled the blankets to her chin. She counted the seconds between breaths. But the room felt too quiet, too empty. The warmth of the heater didn't replace the feeling she had when the door closed, after nearly an hour of twisting in bed. She picked up the phone again. Her hand shook slightly, not from cold, but from uncertainty. Was she really calling again? For what? She didn't have a real reason, only a feeling she couldn't explain. She dialed the front desk. The phone rang once, and the same warm voice answered. "Front desk. This is Ryan." Emily didn't know what she planned to say. The words simply came out. "Hi, it's me again. I'm sorry to bother you." "You're not bothering me," Ryan replied. "Is something wrong?" Emily took a quiet breath. "I just can't sleep." There was a short silence, the kind where two people hear each other's emotions without speaking. Then softly Ryan said, "I'll come up." Before she could reply, he added, "And I think Daniel's still nearby. I'll ask him to come too, just in case." Emily almost laughed. To strangers again? One night, two knocks, and a feeling she didn't expect. 10 minutes later, another knock sounded on her door. When she opened it, Ryan stood there. Daniel stood beside him. Both looked unsure, curious, and strangely hopeful. Emily moved aside, letting them in again. She didn't explain. She didn't need to. They didn't ask Dot in that quiet hotel room. Something small but important had begun: three strangers meeting in the middle of a cold night. Each carrying their own loneliness. Each finding warmth in the simple fact that none of them had to be alone. And the heater wasn't the only thing warming up anymore. If you want, I can now write part 2 in 1,000 words. Same style, fast, emotional, clean, and monetization safe. Would you like me to continue? Here is part 2 explained in approximately 1,000 words. Fast-paced, simple English, emotional, romantic, and fully safe for YouTube monetization. Only story. No notes. No repetition. Part 2. The fix, the coffee. And the confession 1,000-word expansion when Ryan and Daniel stepped inside the second time. The room felt different. The heater was working, the air was warm, but there was something else, something quiet and human. Emily stood near the window, unsure how to explain why she had called again. She didn't want to lie, but the truth felt strange to say out loud. Ryan broke the silence first. "Couldn't sleep." Emily nodded. "I guess. I didn't want to be alone." Neither man laughed. Neither judged. They simply understood. Ryan moved to the small table and opened the room's electric kettle. "Let's make tea or coffee. Whatever helps." Daniel set his toolbox on the floor. Not because anything needed fixing, but because leaving would have felt wrong. He looked uncomfortable at first, like he wasn't sure he belonged in the room. But Emily gave him a gentle smile, and he sat down in the chair beside the heater. Letting his hands rest in his lap, Ryan placed 3 paper cups on the table and stirred hot water over tea bags. Emily watched the steam rise, feeling the room soften. The simple smell of warm tea made her feel safe. No one rushed. No one filled the silence with pointless words. It was strange how 3 people who barely knew each other felt more connected than many of the people Emily saw every day. Ryan handed her a cup. Chamomile, he said. Best thing for restless nights. She took it, her fingers brushing his for a moment. His hand was warm, steady, calm. Daniel took his cup as well, but he didn't drink immediately. He stared into the tea as if it held a memory. Emily sat on the bed, facing both of them. I'm sorry if this is unusual, she said. I know guests don't usually ask for company. Ryan shook his head. It's okay. Night shifts are quiet. Sometimes too quiet. Daniel added, it's rare when someone wants us around. We usually fix something and leave before anyone remembers our names. The honesty in his voice hit her deeper than she expected. Emily took a sip of tea. Today was long. The conference, the travel, everything. I've spent so many nights like this, hotels, airports, pretending I don't mind being alone. But tonight, when you both left, the room felt empty. Daniel lifted his eyes. Everyone gets lonely, even the people who look strong. Ryan leaned back against the wall, crossing his arms gently. What do you do for work, Emily? I manage marketing projects. I travel city to city, always planning for someone else's success. People think it's exciting, but most nights it's just me and a hotel room. Ryan nodded. I understand. I came here for a fresh start. New job, new city, new life. But some nights I feel like a stranger everywhere I go. Emily saw something in his eyes, a quiet sadness mixed with hope. It made her feel closer to him even though they had known each other barely an hour. She turned to Daniel. What about you? He hesitated, then spoke slowly. I used to be married. She passed away 3 years ago. After that, everything lost color. I didn't know what to do with myself. Emily's chest tightened. She hadn't expected that, Daniel continued. Working nights helped. People don't ask questions at night. They just need something fixed. And when you fix something, it feels like you're useful again. The room grew still. Not uncomfortable, just full of understanding. Emily didn't say I'm sorry. She simply looked at him with respect. Ryan stepped in gently. Daniel is the reason this hotel runs smoothly. Most guests never see him, but he's the heart of the building. Daniel looked away, embarrassed. Emily spoke softly. You both made my night feel less lonely. That's something worth remembering. There was a calm that hung between them, warm like the tea in their hands. No one tried to impress anyone. No one tried to be perfect. They spoke like people who finally found someone who listened. After a while, Ryan checked the time. It was past 1 a.m. We should probably head back, he said. We don't want you missing sleep. But Emily didn't want them to leave, not because she was afraid of the dark or the cold, but because the room had finally felt alive. You could stay a little longer, she said softly. Just talk. Nothing more. Daniel smiled for the first time, a slow, gentle smile that seemed to take weight off his shoulders. Ryan took a seat at the small desk, and the three of them continued talking. They shared stories, not dramatic ones, just real pieces of their lives. Ryan talked about his sister back in Minnesota, who promised that moving to a new city would help him heal after his breakup. I believed her, he said, but some nights I still feel like half of me stayed behind. Daniel talked about how he learned to fix broken things because he hated throwing anything away. People give up too fast, he said. Sometimes things just need a little care. Emily talked about the pressure of always being the strong one at work, always smiling, always pretending that she loved the travel when in truth she missed having a place that felt like home. Minutes turned into an hour. The city outside stayed silent, snow falling against the window. The heater hummed softly, a quiet reminder that something broken had been repaired. Finally, when the clock neared 2 a.m., Ryan stood slowly. We should let you sleep, he said gently. You have a conference tomorrow. Emily didn't argue this time. She knew they had already given her more than she expected. Daniel placed his empty cup on the table. If you need help again, even if it's not the heater, call. I'll come. There was no hidden meaning, just sincerity. Ryan walked to the door, then turned back. "You don't have to go through nights alone," he told her. "Not while you're here." Emily felt something warm in her chest. It wasn't love. It wasn't romance. It was connection, honest, simple, rare. They stepped into the hallway. The door closed slowly. Emily stood in the warm room, feeling something she hadn't felt in years, peace. She lay on the bed, not lonely, not aching, just calm. The kind of calm that comes from knowing someone cared enough to stay. Downstairs, Ryan and Daniel returned to the lobby. They didn't speak much, but each carried a quiet feeling that tonight had changed something inside them. Maybe not everything, maybe not forever, but something important. Emily closed her eyes and finally slept deep, steady and without fear of the silence. And somewhere in the hotel, two men were no longer just workers. They were part of a night that none of them would forget. If you'd like, I can now write part 3 in 1,000 words, mature, soft, and monetization safe. Should I continue? Here is part 3 explained in approximately 1,000 words, fast-paced, emotional, simple, English, clean, and fully safe for YouTube monetization. Only story, no repetition. No adult or explicit content. Part 3, one night. 3 hearts, 1,000-word expansion. Emily woke up to sunlight slipping through the hotel curtains. For the first time in a long while, she felt rested. She sat up slowly, remembering the quiet tea, the soft voices, and the peaceful company of 2 strangers who didn't feel like strangers anymore. Something in her heart felt lighter. She got ready for her conference, but the day felt different. Usually, she walked into those events with heavy shoulders and a fake smile. Today, she carried a calm inside her, like someone had placed a warm blanket over her thoughts. Hours of presentations, meetings, and business talks passed, but every now and then, her mind drifted back to last night, the warm tea, Ryan's gentle voice, Daniel's quiet honesty. When the conference ended, she stepped back into the cold evening air. Snow had fallen softly, covering the streets in white. She returned to the hotel lobby, half expecting nothing to feel different. But as soon as she walked inside, she saw Ryan behind the desk. He looked tired from another long shift, but when he saw her, his face brightened in a way that made her chest flutter. "You survived the conference," he said. "Barely," she replied. Smiling, Ryan checked in a few guests, answered phones, and handed out room keys. Emily sat in one of the lobby chairs, watching him work. There was something gentle about the way he treated people, polite, patient, sincere. Most people passed by without noticing. But Emily noticed. When the lobby cleared for a moment, Ryan walked to her. "You look more awake than last night." "Slept," she said. That felt like a miracle. He laughed softly. Sometimes all a person needs is company. Emily looked around. "Where's Daniel?" "He'll start later," Ryan said. "He works the late repair shift." A brief silence passed, but not an awkward one. It was simply comfortable. "I was thinking," Emily began, "would you join me for coffee tonight?" Just coffee. No broken heaters, no late-night emergencies. Ryan thought for a second, then nodded. "I'd like that." Later that evening, they sat in the same room again. This time, it wasn't cold, and there was no work to do. Emily made coffee from the small machine by the window. Ryan sat on the chair near the heater, the same place Daniel had taken the night before. They talked about simple things, how Denver looked in winter, Ryan's favorite hiking spots, the places Emily had visited for work. The conversation flowed easily, without effort or pressure. When Ryan laughed, Emily realized she hadn't heard a sound like that from him last night. It was lighter, freer. Half an hour later, a knock came on the door. Emily opened it, and Daniel stood there, holding a toolbox. "I heard room 312 called maintenance," he joked, though his eyes were warm. "But I guess the emergency was coffee." Emily laughed and let him in. Daniel looked more relaxed than the night before. Maybe sleep, or maybe something inside him had shifted. He set the toolbox down, even though nothing needed fixing, and sat near the window. Ryan poured another cup of coffee and handed it to him. The three of them formed a small circle again, but this time the room didn't feel lonely. It felt like a tiny, quiet world of its own. Emily asked Daniel about the snow outside. He said he liked winter because it made the world silent. People slow down, he said. They notice things. They care a little more. Ryan nodded. Last night felt like that. Everything was quiet, but in a good way. Emily looked at both of them. She didn't know how to explain how safe they made her feel. So she just said, "Thank you for coming back." Daniel smiled gently. Sometimes people only call when something is broken, but last night wasn't about that. Ryan added, "Some people need someone to sit with them. We understand that." They talked for a long time about life, mistakes, hopes, the future. Daniel spoke about trying to move forward after years of grief. Ryan shared how starting fresh in a new city was harder than he expected. Emily confessed that she wasn't sure what home felt like anymore, because she was always on the move. No one tried to solve anything. They just listened. And sometimes being heard matters more than being fixed. Hours passed and the snow outside kept falling. The heater hummed steadily, warmth filling the room. The three of them sat quietly for a moment, just breathing in the peaceful stillness. Ryan finally stood. "We should let you sleep, or tomorrow will be hard again." Daniel rose too, but he didn't head for the door right away. He gave Emily a look, oft, thankful, vulnerable. "I haven't talked this much in a long time," he said. "It felt good." Emily's eyes warmed. "You deserved someone to listen." Ryan reached for the door, but before he opened it, he turned back. "If you ever come back to this hotel, you won't be a stranger." Emily felt something deep in her. Her voice came out softer than she expected. "Neither will you." They stepped into the hallway. This time, they didn't close the door fast. They waved, took a slow breath, and left. Emily lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how rare it was to feel understood by people she barely knew. Not because of romance, not because of magic, because of honesty. Because three lonely hearts had met on a cold night and shared warmth without asking for anything in return. She slept with a calm heart, downstairs. Ryan clocked out of his shift. Daniel finished repairing a hallway light. They didn't talk much, but they shared a quiet smile. Remembering how one small call had brought three people together in a way none of them expected, before going home. Ryan looked up at the hotel's 5th floor where Emily slept. He wasn't falling in love. He wasn't dreaming of something impossible. But he felt hope, something he hadn't felt in a long time. Daniel packed up his toolbox, but he walked slower than usual. Something about tonight made him feel less like a ghost moving through empty hallways. Someone saw him. Someone cared that he stayed. The next morning, Emily checked out of the hotel. She saw them both in the lobby, Ryan behind the desk, Daniel fixing a light fixture near the elevator. They didn't crowd her or make the moment dramatic. They just smiled. Ryan handed her the receipt. "Safe travels, Emily." Daniel added, "And if life ever gets lonely again, you know how to call." Emily held her suitcase, knowing she would remember their words forever. She walked out into the winter air, not feeling empty this time. She felt full of warmth, of gratitude, of something gentle and real. Sometimes the smallest moments become the ones that stay with us. Sometimes a night in a cold hotel room becomes a reminder that good people still exist. And comfort can come from the most unexpected places. Emily stepped into a taxi, looked back once, and smiled. The hotel stood quiet under falling snow, holding a memory of three hearts that met in a moment of need. And none of them would ever forget it. If you want, I can help with title ideas, thumbnail text, story description for YouTube, voiceover script version. Just tell me.